Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with chocolate granola. That's right, do not let the name fool you. It only sounds like we're making granola less healthy. In fact, we are probably making it more nutritious, since we're going to be getting all those well-documented health benefits of chocolate without having to add any additional sugar. At least if you use this technique. And trust me, this is the technique you're going to want to use, since it's fast, easy, and the results are unbelievably delicious. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And first up, we have to make our mud, which is what I've dubbed the chocolate base we're about to create. And that's going to start with some light brown sugar, as well as the maple syrup formerly known as grade B. I believe now they call it robust, which I'm still not comfortable with. But anyway, continuing on, we'll also need a little bit of vegetable oil. Or if you're into it, some melted coconut oil would also work perfectly here. We will also want to drip in a little bit of pure real vanilla extract. And then it's very important we season this up with some salt, as well as the technically optional cayenne, which I could have done anywhere, but I did it on the salt because I thought it would look cool. All right, don't forget, we're not just cooking, we're also sort of painting. And then last but not least, we'll finish up with our star ingredient, some cocoa. And by the way, while I'm sure there's a lot of cocos that will work for this, I'm using a very beautiful Dutch process cocoa rouge, which I will go over in excruciating detail in the blog post. And then once all that's in there, we'll take a whisk and give this a thorough mixing. And believe it or not, that's going to be it for our chocolate granola base, which as I mentioned earlier, we've dubbed the mud, for obvious reasons. And then once that very simple and easy step is done, we are ready to add whatever grains and nuts we're going to be using here, which for me is simply going to be some rolled oats, as well as some incredibly cocoa-friendly chopped almonds. And while there are like 100 other things you could add to this, I'm just using these two because I really want to keep the flavor profile simple, so as not to have a lot of other tastes and textures competing with my chocolate. But anyway, once our mud has been grained and nutted, we will take our biggest, bestest spatula, and we'll mix this up using the old toss and smear, which you can see me performing here. So we will rotate that bowl around, while we alternate between tossing and smearing the mixture together, and we will continue doing that until this is utterly and thoroughly mixed. And by mixed, I mean every single particle of oatmeal and almond should be covered with that chocolate mud. And if it's not, do not stop. All right, while you can't overmix this, you certainly can undermix it. So take your time and make us proud. And then once that is all perfectly mixed, we'll go ahead and transfer that onto a Silpat lined baking sheet. And obviously spread it out as evenly as possible. Not just so it looks cool, but so that it bakes evenly. And of course I should mention, just because I'm keeping mine super simple doesn't mean you have to. I mean, you are after all the Jehovah of your chocolate granola. So feel free to add any other granola appropriate seeds, nuts, and grains you see fit. But like I said, when I'm doing a chocolate version of this, I think just the oatmeal and almond works the best. But regardless of what you're using, once that's all been successfully spread out, it is ready to transfer into the center of a 250-degree oven for approximately 60 to 90 minutes, or until done, quote unquote. And we will talk about doneness a little later. But what I like to do after about 30 minutes is go ahead and pull it out, and we will give this a toss with a fork, breaking up any large pieces that are sticking together. Which reminds me, if you want big pieces that are sticking together, do not do this step, which is completely okay. But if you do want a granola with a finer texture, like I do, you probably will want to work this over as shown. And then once that's been accomplished, we'll go ahead and pop that back in, but not before, of course, tasting a little pinch, which only after a half hour is not going to be done, and it's still going to be pretty soft and chewy. But it was actually starting to get a little bit crunchy. But anyway, after this optional forking, we'll go ahead and put that back in until we think it's done. And how long that takes total is going to depend on what you put in your mixture, and also how crisp and crunchy you want this. Okay, some people like it soft and chewy, and other people like it very crunchy and crisp. So we'll pop that back in the oven and continue on at 250, checking it as needed, until we think it's gone long enough. And one big tip here for testing that, you're not going to really be able to judge it until it's cooled off. So to check this, what I'll do is transfer a little bit of this onto a plate, which will cause it to cool quickly, at which point we can touch it and listen to it. And if it sounds like little pieces of glass hitting the plate, you're probably done. But of course, we'll want to eat some to double check. And I'm happy to report mine was perfect. Which brings us to one last optional step. I like to let mine cool in the turned off oven. So once done, I'll simply pop mine back in, turn off the heat, and let that sit in there slowly cooling until it's room temp. And I think that helps it dry out just a little bit more, and maybe adds a little extra crispiness, without risking overcooking. So this is what mine looked like a couple hours later. Completely cooled and ready to consume. And of course, we're going to want to transfer that into some kind of airtight container. Like one of these glass latch-top jars. Or if you're not taking pictures, just some Tupperware. And that's it, our chocolate granola is officially ready to enjoy. Which is absolutely wonderful as is. But while it's totally fine by itself, it's even better in my opinion to combine with some vanilla yogurt to create a simple yet beautiful parfait that we may or may not want to top with a little bit of fresh fruit. And by the way, the only difference between this presented as a breakfast and this presented as a dessert is what you serve it in. Okay, if you use one of these fancy sundae glasses, it's a dessert. Whereas if we put the same ingredients in a cereal bowl, it's a breakfast. That really is the only difference. And even though it might seem kind of decadent and naughty, it really is not. Okay, compared to a lot of granola recipes, this one has a shockingly small amount of sugar in it. And yet our chocolate flavor is very pronounced, very intense. And I have to admit, even though I'm sort of a closet hippie, I've never been a huge fan of granola, but this chocolate version I absolutely love. And by the way, with Mother's Day coming up, if your mom's a fan of chocolate, which I'm going to take a guess and say she is, this would not only be perfect to serve to her, but would also make a beautiful edible gift. Although to be honest, once you make this and taste it, there is a decent chance you'll just keep it to yourself and get her a gift card. But either way, I really do hope you give this easy and delicious chocolate granola a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.